Have you ever wondered how people manage to keep fruit fresh before refrigerators? The Amish, living completely off-grid, have mastered the art of preserving oranges for up to 6 months, without a single plug, freezer, or modern machine. In today's video, we're taking you deep into their world. You'll learn exactly how they store citrus long-term, using only natural methods, age-old knowledge, and a lifestyle built around patience, purpose, and simplicity. From beeswax coatings to buried clay pots, their techniques are as brilliant as they are unexpected. Stay with us, because what you'll discover might just change how you think about food forever. Number 1. Why oranges matter to the Amish. To most people living in modern society, oranges are just another fruit you toss into your cart at the grocery store without a second thought. They're available all year, stacked high in supermarket bins, shipped from sunny places like Florida or California, and always kept perfectly chilled. But if you step into the world of the Amish, the relationship with oranges looks completely different. These communities live intentionally, often far from the noise of modern convenience, and without reliance on things like refrigeration, electricity, or processed storage. So when oranges arrive in their world, it's not routine. It's a moment that carries meaning, planning, and care. For the Amish, oranges are not just fruit. They're a seasonal treasure. Citrus isn't something they can just go out and pick. In places like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, where most Amish settlements exist, the climate doesn't support orange trees. So when oranges do become available, typically during the late fall and winter harvest in warmer states, the Amish know this is a short-lived window of opportunity. This awareness fuels their careful preparation. They don't just buy a few for snacking, they often buy in bulk, sometimes by the crate, knowing that every single one has to be handled with respect and purpose. Nothing goes to waste and nothing is taken for granted. But the importance of oranges goes even deeper. They represent access to vital nutrients in months when fresh produce is limited. During cold seasons, especially in the heart of winter, when root vegetables dominate the pantry and most local fruits are long gone, oranges offer brightness both in flavor and in nutrition. The high vitamin C content is a welcome support to immune health during times when colds and flu become more common. To us, it might be as simple as, I want something fresh. But for the Amish, it's about survival, nourishment, and good stewardship of resources. Because they don't use modern refrigeration, the Amish can't afford to just leave oranges out and hope they'll last. Every orange they buy has a plan attached to it. From the moment those wooden crates arrive, either from an English market, a produce auction, or a trusted supplier, there's an almost immediate shift into preservation mode. They assess the fruit, separate them by size and condition, and start applying methods that have been handed down through generations. It's not just about keeping them from spoiling. It's about building a seasonal reserve, something that brings color and sweetness to months otherwise filled with simple, hearty meals. And this is where Amish values really shine through. They believe deeply in self-reliance, frugality, and respect for nature's cycles. They don't chase abundance for the sake of it. They embrace what the earth gives when it gives it, and then they act accordingly. If citrus is here now, they use it fully and wisely. If it's not available later, they accept that too, but only after doing everything they can to stretch its presence. That's why orange preservation isn't just practical, it's cultural. It's a direct expression of their way of life where nothing is wasted and everything has meaning. Number 2, natural coatings and ancient logic. Among the many traditional methods the Amish use to preserve food, coating oranges in beeswax stands out as one of the most quietly brilliant. On the surface, it may seem like a simple solution. Dip the fruit in wax, let it dry, store it. But in truth, this method reflects centuries of practical wisdom, built not on technology or shortcuts, but on understanding how nature works and how to work with it instead of against it. The beeswax method isn't just clever, it's deeply rooted in a lifestyle that values self-reliance, simplicity, and sustainability. The logic behind this practice is actually very scientific, even if it's not explained that way in an Amish kitchen. Oranges, like most fruits, naturally lose moisture and begin to rot, when their skin is exposed to air and bacteria. What beeswax does is act as a physical shield, sealing the pores of the fruit's skin and creating a moisture-locking layer. This protective barrier keeps the inside of the orange fresh, juicy, and shielded from the slow decay caused by time, air, and microbial activity. The wax doesn't alter the fruit, it simply guards it. It's a quiet, invisible defense. The Amish don't buy commercial wax or rely on processed ingredients. Instead, they use beeswax sourced from their own hives or trusted neighbors in the community. The wax is gently melted in a pot, usually over a wood-burning stove or open flame. And sometimes a tiny amount of oil, like olive or sunflower, is added to improve texture and spreadability. Then comes the careful part. Each orange is either dipped entirely into the warm wax or hand-coated with a cloth, making sure the surface is evenly covered but not excessively layered. The process is delicate. It's not about speed or perfection, it's about doing it right, one orange at a time. Once the coating has cooled and hardened, the real preservation begins. These wax-covered oranges are never tossed into plastic containers or Ziploc bags. Plastic traps moisture and promotes mold. Instead, the Amish use breathable materials: paper wrappings, cloth bags, or old wooden crates with airflow. The goal is always the same: keep the fruit dry, cool, and separated from others. They might place them in root cellars, pantries, or cool closets, lined neatly so no fruit touches another. This prevents cross-contamination if one were to spoil, though the beeswax often delays that risk significantly. What's striking is how this method favors function over appearance. Waxed oranges don't glisten or shine like supermarket fruit. In fact, they may look a bit dull or matte. But that's entirely the point. The Amish aren't preserving fruit for display, they're preserving it to eat. They care about what's inside, not how it looks on the outside. That perspective speaks volumes about their values: practicality over vanity, substance over gloss. Beeswax as a material is perfectly in line with Amish beliefs. It's natural, biodegradable, safe, and often homemade. It doesn't require any chemicals, energy, or modern packaging systems. It's just a simple resource that, when used with care and understanding, can turn a perishable item into a long-lasting staple. And more importantly, it connects the Amish to their environment. They raise the bees, harvest the wax, and use it with intention. It's a full-circle process that keeps them independent and rooted in tradition. In a world that leans heavily on refrigeration and synthetic solutions, this one small act of dipping fruit into wax feels almost revolutionary. Yet for the Amish, it's just another ordinary day doing things the old, proven way. Number 3, underground cellars and smart positioning. Hidden behind quiet wooden doors on the side of an Amish farmhouse or tucked into a slope behind a barn, you'll often find what looks like a simple entrance to a storage shed. But behind that small door lies one of the most essential parts of Amish food preservation: the root cellar. It might not look like much from the outside, but these underground rooms serve as nature's refrigerator, working silently and steadily all year long without a single watt of electricity. For the Amish, who live without freezers or artificial climate control, this is one of their most valuable tools. Root cellars are dug deep enough into the ground to take advantage of the Earth's consistent underground temperature. Inside, it stays cool and humid, typically around 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, just cool enough to dramatically slow down ripening and spoilage, but not so cold that the fruit freezes. The Amish use these cellars to store a wide variety of foods, from cabbages and potatoes to homemade butter and jams. And when it comes to oranges, the cellar becomes a carefully monitored environment where every decision counts. Storing oranges in a cellar isn't just about dropping them into a bin and forgetting about them. The Amish approach it with intention and detail. Each orange is prepared before it even touches the cellar floor. Some are coated in a thin layer of beeswax to lock in moisture and block bacteria. Others are wrapped individually in breathable cloth, like cheesecloth or thin muslin. This simple step protects the skin without trapping moisture, a delicate balance that ensures the fruit stays firm and mold-free for as long as possible. The real magic happens in how they position and store the fruit inside the cellar. Oranges aren't just stacked together. That would be risky. One bad orange could begin to decay and set off a chain reaction, spoiling the entire batch. So, the Amish separate the fruit using layers of natural materials like pine needles, sawdust, dried moss, or straw. These materials do more than just cushion the fruit. They actively manage the environment. Straw absorbs excess humidity, pine needles bring mild antibacterial properties, and sawdust keeps air flowing evenly, preventing the buildup of moisture that could encourage rot. The containers themselves are also carefully chosen. Clay pots, wooden boxes, or old-fashioned ceramic crocks are preferred because they breathe. They allow air to circulate slowly, unlike plastic, which traps condensation. These containers are spaced out in the coolest, most stable part of the cellar, often near the back wall or even partially buried into the earth floor for extra insulation. In colder months, this insulation helps guard against sharp temperature drops, which could damage the fruit. Maintaining this storage is not something the Amish treat casually. Every couple of weeks, someone from the household, often a younger child learning the trade or an older family member experienced in food storage, will check the fruit one by one. Any sign of softening, discoloration, or off-smell means immediate removal. It's a preventive act, not reactive. The goal is long-term preservation, and that means constant awareness, not blind hope. To the Amish, food is life, and that life must be protected with care, skill, and daily attention. Preservation isn't just a method, it's a way of living. Number 4. Sweet syrup jars and fermentation blends. When cold cellars are full and wax-coated oranges are already lined up in crocks and wooden boxes, the Amish turn to methods that transform fresh citrus into shelf-stable, preserved goods, without needing electricity or modern packaging. One of the most reliable and time-tested techniques is preservation through sweet syrup, a method that blends old-world practicality with comforting, homemade flavor. This isn't just about extending the life of oranges, it's about creating something nourishing, soothing, and versatile enough to last through the long winter. The process begins with selecting ripe, firm oranges that are free from any bruises or imperfections. The fruit is peeled and sliced into even rounds or segments, making sure to remove any seeds that could give off bitterness over time. While one person handles the slicing, another is usually already preparing the syrup on the stove. This syrup is made from simple ingredients: white or raw cane sugar, clean well water, and sometimes a hint of lemon juice to balance out the sweetness. Some Amish households add a few sticks of cinnamon or a clove or two, not just for flavor, but for their natural preservative qualities. The syrup is slowly brought to a boil until the sugar is fully dissolved and the liquid thickens slightly, creating a golden, fragrant base. Once the syrup reaches the right consistency, it's poured, still hot, over the orange slices that have been packed tightly into sterilized mason jars. This step is done quickly, often with a rhythm developed from years of experience. The hot syrup causes the fruit to settle, and any air pockets are carefully removed using wooden sticks or gentle tapping. The jars are then sealed with metal lids and rings and placed into a large pot of boiling water for a controlled hot water bath. This final stage is what creates the vacuum seal, a natural lock that keeps out bacteria, mold, and moisture for up to 6 months or more. The result is a batch of beautiful, sweet jars that can be eaten straight, added to baked goods, or spooned over oatmeal or bread. But that's only half the story. Some Amish families, particularly those who lean into more natural or medicinal traditions, also use fermentation to preserve oranges in a raw, unheated form. This method doesn't rely on boiling or sugar syrup. Instead, it uses the fruit's own acidity and the natural properties of raw honey. Chopped oranges are mixed with generous spoonfuls of local honey in a clean glass jar. Sometimes slices of ginger or a sprinkle of cinnamon are added to deepen the flavor and support the immune system. The jar is covered with a breathable cloth or a loose-fitting lid and left at room temperature for several days. Over time, the mixture begins to bubble slightly, developing a tangy, lightly fermented flavor that's full of probiotics and natural enzymes. This fermented orange blend is incredibly versatile. It's often added to hot water as a soothing drink for coughs and sore throats, or eaten by the spoonful for digestion and energy. Unlike commercial preservatives, it doesn't rely on additives or artificial processes. It's raw, alive, and rooted in the Amish belief that food should be as close to its natural form as possible. These fermentation practices aren't used in every household, but where they are, they're deeply respected as both food and medicine. What stands out in both these methods is the Amish sense of balance. They don't limit themselves to one idea or one tradition. They choose what works based on what they have, what they know, and what each situation calls for. If fresh fruit can't last, they transform it. If conditions change, they change with them. For the Amish, preserving oranges in sweet syrup or honey isn't just practical. It's an expression of adaptability, resourcefulness, and the quiet confidence that comes from doing things with your hands, your family, and your time. Number 5. Community effort and cultural roots. In the Amish world, preserving food is never just a task for one person. It's not something you do alone in a hurry behind closed doors. Instead, it's a process rooted in community, carried out with cooperation, patience, and shared responsibility. When the citrus season begins and crates of fresh oranges arrive, often ordered in bulk through regional produce auctions or by connections with English farmers, it marks more than just the arrival of fruit. It signals a time for neighbors to come together, for families to connect, and for old traditions to come alive again. Rather than each household separately buying and managing their own supply, several Amish families might pool their money and arrange for a larger shipment. This not only makes financial sense, but reflects a deeper cultural principle. Working together benefits everyone. One home might become the sorting station, with long wooden tables laid out to inspect each orange for quality, size, and condition. Another family might be responsible for melting beeswax and managing the waxing process, which has to be done carefully by hand, one fruit at a time. Someone else might be preparing the storage areas, cleaning out crocks, sifting fresh sawdust, or organizing shelves in the root cellar. Each role is essential and everyone knows their part. Children are involved not as observers, but as participants. They're not just watching while the adults work. They're dipping oranges in wax, layering fruit with straw, carefully labeling jars. They ask questions, make mistakes, get corrected, and try again. This is how knowledge survives. Not written in instruction manuals, but carried in gestures, practice skills, and spoken guidance. You won't find step-by-step recipes on a printed page in these communities. Instead, techniques are shown, explained in simple language, repeated every year until they become second nature. The preservation of food in this context is inseparable from the preservation of values. There's a philosophy woven into every step. It's about stewardship, being mindful of the resources you have and making them last without waste or excess. There's no rush to finish the job, no modern stress over expiration dates or power outages. The Amish understand that good results take time. Whether it's drying orange peels for later tea or sealing slices in glass jars with homemade syrup, their approach is calm, focused, and methodical. What really stands out is how this quiet, steady way of working reflects their entire worldview. It's not just about food, it's a reflection of how they see life. Tools are simple, processes are slow, but everything they do carries intention. That's why a beeswax-coated orange isn't just a preserved fruit. It's part of a chain of care that stretches from generation to generation. The storage crocks in the cellar are not just containers. They're a symbol of planning, cooperation, and trust in traditional ways. In a fast-paced world built around speed and convenience, the Amish model offers something radically different. They prove that you don't need high-tech solutions to live well. What you need is discipline, knowledge, and a community that believes in doing things with heart. Their preserved oranges may last 6 months without refrigeration, but the skills and values behind that process endure much longer, passed from parent to child, neighbor to neighbor, season after season.